What's up?
Oh, hey Grant. I don't suppose you got about 30 minutes to talk about cars.
If I'm being completely honest, probably got days.
Let me guess. Brake job?
You guessed it.
Classic breakdown.
All right, welcome in everybody. It is the second installment of the Breakdown and Special Edition because we are literally not only powered by the Get Out and Drive podcast, but we are literally getting out, driving, and podcasting tonight. So welcome into the May edition of the Get Out and Drive version of the Breakdown. So I am Grant Tommy. I'm Street 6 fan on YouTube, but the guy in the driver's seat.
My name is Casey. I'm an old car guy, and I'm kind of cool over here as well. I'll be driving, so I may not be doing a whole lot of talking. I got to kind of pay attention to what's going on here. If you're wondering where we are we're in North Carolina, traveling down Interstate 85. So if you're dumb enough to be watching YouTube while driving down Interstate 85, you see us, give us a wave.
So we appreciate you guys bearing with us. This is the first time we've ever done an episode like this from the mercy of our data package on my cell phone. So bear with us as technology. Ryan will take the reins should we drop off. But excited, if you haven't heard, we are en route to C10s in the city in Atlanta. The big backers behind that. So Jason, remind me. Obviously, I know Auto Metal Direct, one of our friends, is one of the big backers there, but the big organizers there.
So Auto Metal Direct has a big part of that. But C10s in the city has several different sponsors, and more so than I can remember to be able to announce. But that show takes place May the 3rd, so that's this Saturday, 2 days from now. And we keep saying the Breakdown, and we keep saying Get Out and Drive podcast, but Get Out and Drive podcast is fueled by AMD as well. So we need to make sure that you guys know that. And I think John and Joanne, they're on the road from St. Louis. They're probably getting pretty close to the Georgia border by now, and I think they might even be in the chat. Joanne said she was going to watch. So, hi guys, welcome from North Carolina.
And then, obviously, one other thing, C10s in the city or bus. So thank you very much. That must be Joanne there from the St. Louis Snow Codes. Yeah. All right, so one other thing, behind the scenes, literally behind the scenes, we've got, of course, junior car. So if you want the backseat driver advice, we've got that too here. So it's the spirit of what we're doing, road trip, the namesake of our show, the Breakdown. It's not planned, but both Jason and I had breakdowns today, so we wanted to lead with that. And Jason, you want to go first?
I think my breakdown is more than yours.
So you want me to lead?
You should think of yours and your follow-up.
So, of course, I flew into Washington, D.C. from Kansas City. I live near the Kansas City area. And this is the first time ever in my life, and I've done a lot of airline travel, that I was allowed to board the plane, then board the plane. So we all boarded on time, but during the normal procedures, the crew that loads the luggage in the storage found a dent. They identified a dent on the fuselage somewhere, I assume, in the proximity of where they're working, the storage area. So what that ended up doing, following protocol, they had to call that in to basically engineering according to the pilot. So we sat on the tarmac for over an hour, and that put me behind an hour. That put the whole operation behind an hour, unfortunately. The lead up to that, though, I get a little 2-second video from Jason with his hazards on. And so I was thinking, like, okay, well, this all works out. Don't feel rushed, Jason, about getting to Reagan International on time, because it turns out we're experiencing a breakdown. But Jason, what was it that you were teasing there in that text message?
Yeah, so it was a block down the side of the road from a new engine. Classic breakdown. No. So Junior and I left Harrisburg this morning, and if you're familiar with the area, we left we were staying at the Red Roof Inn. So we left Interstate 81, got on 83, and we're just about to cross the river. And just as you make the great big roundabout to do that, Dale Jr. lost power, and it felt like it was running on like half cylinder, which we found out later it was. So it's rush hour traffic. Cars, trucks, and transports are just whizzing by us. And we're in the second lane of 3 lanes and an on-ramp. So we had to kind of cut 2 lanes of traffic to get to the shoulder and figure out why this thing was running rough. So I started pulling spark plug wires. The first one that I pulled was number 3. And when I pulled it off the distributor, nothing changed. So I thought, oh, let's check the spark plugs. So on the side of the road, we start checking spark plugs. We changed them because I had brought some with me. And we started up, that didn't do a thing. So that led me to believe, you know, we probably had spark, but maybe no fuel somehow. I just happened to lift the little ring that goes around the throttle body, and I could tell that one of my new injectors wasn't pulsing. It wasn't sending any fuel. It was just kind of dripping in. So the engine was running on 4 cylinders. I kept the old injectors. So this is what I get for doing preventative maintenance. And I want to ask you guys about that. But preventative maintenance, I rebuilt the throttle body, put 2 new injectors in it, and it bit me in the ass. So we're on the side of the shoulder of Interstate 83 goes through Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, with big trucks and cars just whipping by us, changing an injector on the throttle body. So that was my breakdown this morning. Luckily, we found it and got it fixed up, and I had the spare parts that I brought with me, and we were able to get it fixed up in a timely fashion to get back on the road. That set us behind 45 minutes. So we thought, well, Grant's going to be waiting for us, and I randomly get a text saying that his flight's not due in for another hour. So we ended up waiting for him. It all worked out, but we've got, oh shoot, I don't know how many miles left according to the GPS. Let's see. We got 306 miles left to go today, and it's already, well, 10 after 7, so it's going to be a late night.
All right, so 2 things. It's hard for us to read the comments on the but I did pick up. So thanks again to Ryan for working the producer role and flashing up questions. So he did predict it. He was halfway right and predicted that you run out of fuel. Well,
kind of.
Halfway. Did on one bank no, on the other bank yes. And then he was asking. So, and I think this will lead into our next discussion. The preventative maintenance, when it has worked out and when it hasn't worked out. But Ryan was asking, for the sake of the group, was it an OEM part or was it parts store brand injector?
Well, yeah, it was parts store brand injector. I went to my local Napa and I ordered the parts and I got what I got. So I was going to go to Rock Auto and they only listed it was cheaper than the ones I got, but with shipping it was going to cost me more. And so I just bought them locally. But that's part of the topic of discussion is when you're buying parts and replacing them, you're not getting the quality. And sometimes I would question whether you're getting the quality out of OEM parts because some of those are made in China nowadays. China. But nonetheless, it was preventative maintenance on my part so that we wouldn't have an issue, that I could get the most fuel economy I could out of this old beast and it bit me in the rear.
This story is very familiar to me. So it's really a common thing with cat battery. Made an experience on my channel from time to time in the past. I own that, for instance, from 103,000 miles to 198,000 miles before I sold it. So I put 95,000 miles on it. And I would say I was probably north of 150,000 miles somewhere. That was like, you know what? I bet these are the original coil packs on this truck. After 150,000 miles, it seems reasonable to think maybe this would be a good time to just go ahead and do that. I bet they haven't been changed. So I go down to the parts store, buy parts store coils, and I change that. And probably 6 weeks later is when I'm driving home and I experience a very similar sensation to Jason, a very rough operating engine. The check engine light is flashing at me. which turns out is to tell me that it's one cylinder is just shut itself completely off, so fuel doesn't continue to dump into the cylinder while with no spark. So yeah, created my own problem there. I didn't have a ignition coil issue, and then I bought one from a parts store.
Yeah, so it's easy to say go back to the parts store, they'll replace it. Yeah, and they probably will. And generally, no questions asked. I got a very good relationship with my local Napa store. The problem is I don't want this problem down the road again. So I should have replaced both of those injectors with the OEM ones that came with it there and then on the spot. But the problem was we were in an awkward spot on the highway, and I didn't want to be there any longer than I had to. We struggled getting that one to seat into place. We struggled getting that one into place, and I didn't want to be on the side of the highway any longer than I had to. It was very dangerous. Junior was on the lookout, and we wanted to get out of there and get back on the road. So I'm going to take them back once I get home, if it lasts that long, and make sure that we just get my money back, put the OEM ones back in, try and clean them up somehow, and hope for the best.
So Ryan's recommendation is to go ahead and get an in-time machine and go back to a 1990s store. I think that's probably simple. With good prices, I assume, too. But Jason, your experience then led into another conversation we had on the drive down, which was you were literally living that thing that we've all come to create a market for. The whole roadkill sensation, it's entertaining to us because it's not the trouble we're facing, but then you get to watch Freiberger and Finnegan try to piece something together on the shoulder of a highway or in a parking lot. But now that you've lived it, and as you just mentioned, yeah, maybe I should have done the same move to both banks. I should have gone back to the old part on the other bank. But to your point, you're like, no, I've kind of had enough of this atmosphere. How's your impression changed now that you've lived it?
Well, had it not been such a dangerous situation, I 100% most certainly would have had my phone out. I would have been recording it and grabbing some footage for a long form content, and it would have been great footage. But instead, I erred on the side of caution and safety to just get the fix done and get back on the road. It wasn't something that there wasn't very much traffic. This was, I don't know what time it was, Alex, 8 o'clock? 8:30 in the morning, so like it was just cruising. And once we get fixed and about half a mile, 3/4 of a mile up the road, we come to a standstill anyway. Traffic had slowed down because of rush hour. So it was just a bad spot. And I appreciate all these roadkill type guys that go out doing fixes on the side of the road. But I mean, it makes for great content and it would have been fun. But sometimes it's dangerous and you gotta err on the side of caution.
As I mentioned, it's one thing to be doing the repair, to have your hood up, but when an 18-wheeler is moving past you inches away at 75 miles an hour, that's a different level of comfort sprinkled in there.
Well, it is. I mean, we had a little bit of space we were near the on ramp, so cars were merging over pretty quick, giving us a little bit of room, but still, like they're just sailing by there. And at one point, a big truck went by and it made an awful roar or something. Scared the living poop out of me. So it is what it is. You got to do what you got to do to keep things safe. And I had Junior on the lookout in case something was coming our way. We can at least attempt or have some warning to jump out of the way.
All right, so the comment from John and Joanne is, we'll talk a little bit about, because this is another experience that you can speak to more than I can, Jason, just because I've only been part of the last 300 miles of today's 800 miles so far, approximately. But the thumbs up counter on the side has to even cruising.
Yeah, so sadly, we haven't been keeping count, but I think, and Junior can correct me, I think we can probably say we're above 2 hands. We've been getting honks, thumbs up, nods, waves. What's that? Broken necks, yeah. We were coming through I forget what highway or state road we were on coming through Pennsylvania this morning. But we were passing a transport truck, and then out the window comes a cell phone. So he's like recording us as we go by, and we give him a little toot. So, you know, when you're driving a 30-year-old truck or 35-year-old truck that looks like it's 50-year-old, it draws attention. So it's a good feeling to see that people still appreciate these old things.
I think you're right. Okay, thumbs up, great. How many middle fingers?
Well, only that one Kia that I just about rode off there about 20 minutes ago before we went live.
Well, I think with the thumbs up camera, I would guess your estimate would be correct, because if I had to estimate what I've seen so far, it would be about 6.
Yeah.
But no, and I think that speaks to the combination, the aesthetic that you've put together here in Dale Jr. It must be hitting the right notes if we can get that. So the vinyl wrap, the 18-inch wheels. So if you haven't checked out Jason's latest content over on his channel, Old Car Guy on YouTube, by all means go do so. But as mentioned at the beginning, we're headed down to C10s in the city in Atlanta, so we'd be a little remiss if we didn't touch base and talk about that, the efforts, the origin story of that. This will be the second time, at least Jason will go. I have to fly out before the truck show, unfortunately, but second time in 3 years. But the shows continue to grow and grow. This is their 4th installment.
No, I think this is number 5.
So, and in the origin, so you know better than I, but the leading couple, was it originally a fundraiser to fight breast cancer?
So Sarah, they are the organizers of C10s in the city. And Sarah had breast cancer. She's a survivor. And so they felt that they needed to do something to help women who are battling this. So their fundraiser was to put on a truck show. And it was a great success. It's growing every year. In fact, from 2 years ago when we went down last, they've outgrown that parking lot. And in 2023, I think there was over 400 trucks. So this year, again, they've outgrown that. So they're moving across the road to the Olympic Stadium parking lot. I think it's the blue parking lot in Atlanta, in Summerhill. So if you're around, if you're watching this, if you're within a couple hours drive, it's definitely worth it. Even if you're not a Chevy truck guy, there's lots of neat things to see there and to support a great cause that goes to the Pink Fund. You buy tickets, there's a lot of raffled items that are going up, and they give you like a truck length worth of tickets when you spend your money, and they'll draw them off at the end of the show, and there's lots of great prizes to give away.
If you're hearing about this for the first time, go ahead and watch the 2026 C10s in the city. It's early May. It's always been early May. I guess they could change it.
They could change it because in 23 it was the first weekend of June. And they moved it back or ahead simply because in June in Atlanta, it's just too dang hot. So hopefully this weekend is looking good for temperatures in the high 70s. So maybe low 80s. It's going to be a nice weekend.
Which is more fitting for trucks.
Exactly. But it is a C10 truck show. So it's basically all Chevy trucks from 98 and older. And as the years go on, if this keeps on, that may change as well. But if you have an OBS Chevy or GMC truck, Suburban, Yukon, whatever it happens to be, or older, you're welcome. If you're going to register, I'll get Grant, no, not Grant, you're here. I'll get Ryan to put a link in the comments if he hasn't already. Go there, you can register for the show. It's free, and make sure you sign up, let them know you're coming.
Another indication of how this thing has grown over the last at least 3 years that we're familiar with here. I guess 2 calendar years, 3 shows, right? Because it was 2023 that we came down the first time. Since then, some of it's gathered more and more attention. So we anticipate that, of course, Robbie from United by Trucks was there 2 years ago. That's grown from the YouTuber scene now to Vice Grip Garage is expected to bring 2 trucks, and even Mike Finnegan is expected to bring a truck down. So as this thing continues to grow, this is your chance to almost still kind of be in on the ground floor before this really blows up.
Yeah, and another YouTube channel is Yeah Buddy Garage. Josh McPherson is going to be there as well. And, there's a lot of guys from the C10 community who have been around that are going to make an appearance and bring their trucks. I know Totally Hooked on Instagram. He's going to be there with his manual swapped, LS swapped C10. Kyle Fannin from Maryland, he drove down today too. He's bringing, I believe, a Suburban. Rick, who is the kind of the organizer, well, his wife's the organizer, but Rick Cheeseman, he's bringing the new Suburban that he's got. I believe it's a 79. So if you want to see a lot of these new rigs, now is the time to see what's out there because, every year it grows with new trucks. So you're not going to want to miss out.
See, John and Joanne are experiencing it must be some light artists that come in from the northwest side. We still have, I'll call it, a little more than partly cloudy skies and sun setting, but luckily no rain at the moment. So it's good news. So we can make some good time here on the home stretch. But any 5-liter Coyote swap seats are expected to be there. I only know of one on the internet.
Not that I know of, but there's lots of LS. Who knows? There might be Coyote swaps or maybe some diesel swaps. There might be, who knows? There's quite a few that have original drivetrain. The 250, 292 inline sixes. So you never know what's going to show up there.
Yeah, one of my favorites from 2 years ago, I believe it's like a 66, 67, that era. The guy had LS swapped it. And I want to say he came from Texas or Louisiana, somewhere that direction. However, years later, it just didn't have the feel he wanted, so he swapped back in. He built probably a 292, if I remember right. And he said he loves it, likes it even better. And what was really cool was the way he did the swap transmission. His shift lever was basically under the driver's seat, almost like you would sometimes, push a lever to move your seat up and back. But I thought that was a pretty cool trick move, the way he integrated that in. I can't remember if he kept the overdrive transmission. I think he did. But anyway, I have enough to go through my YouTube channel. I featured it 2 years ago.
And so if you guys are in the area, I encourage you to be there. Obviously, if you're too far away and on short notice, you can't do it. Make sure you watch United by Trucks. I know he's going to have some great content. Make sure you're watching Yeah Buddy Garage. Unfortunately, Grant's not going to be able to make it because he's only here for the road trip. And the quality friendship time.
But yeah, speaking of Robbie, by trucks, well, let me back up. So, being the resident Ford guy, coming down 2 years ago, trust me, even if you're not a Chevy truck guy, they'll treat you like royalty. They treat you well, and it's a good time. The truck show, the quality of trucks, the average quality of truck is very high. So it's still a lot of cool trick things to look at. Even what I also love, just seeing the things. Me, offbeat hot rodding. There was a C20, so an 8-lug truck that a guy shortened the bed, lowered it. So it's kind of cool to see everything looks street truck. Then we look closer, there's 8 lugs here. So that was kind of cool. There was a C50 or 60, I remember. That was like a ramp truck. There were some other cool spin-off things. And if I recall, JC, correct me if I'm wrong, but last year did they open it up also to the box style S10s, like the S15s? And
I can't remember. I don't know.
Okay.
I can't say for sure. I wouldn't want to say one way or the other.
Build some suspense.
Yeah. If you want to know, if it's open to seat or to S10s and S15s, you're going to have to show up.
So, Robbie, correct me if I'm wrong, did I see right? Is he doing a giveaway for Mississippi Mud?
Yep, he is. So if you guys follow United by Trucks, but if you don't, go do it. It's well worth it. But he's doing a giveaway. If you spend money on his merch store, you get entries in to Mississippi Mud, which is his, I believe, 73 or 4, short wheelbase, small block Chevy, just lowered. It's a really nice looking truck, original patina. And he's giving that away. And I think it's the ballots are good till, I believe, the end of May. But if I'm wrong, you'll see it on the website, United by Trucks.
So Ryan, I misread your comment you put down there for a second. I thought you were asking if K car allowed, but what you're really asking are K series vehicles, a 4-wheel drive version of a Blazer.
Well, no, because it doesn't fit the C10. These are just a Chevy truck only show, basically.
No, sorry, I didn't articulate that well. I misread his comment when he's really asking on K, like a K5,
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a Chevy truck. Suburban pickups, 1 tons, crew cab, whatever it is, as long as it's a Chevy truck, 1998 or older, it fits. If it fits, it ships.
Maybe some year I should just build a C10 and just show up and force myself in a C10. Who's the weird guy with the van? Oh, that's great.
Yeah. But again, it's all Chevy trucks. And if you guys are wondering, well, why don't they let Fords? Why don't they let the... If you want it, then do your own show. It's pretty simple. There's Chevy, or there's Ford and Mopar shows. Carlisle does them. Don't be butthurt. Just because the C10s and the C series trucks and K series trucks are better, don't let your feelings get hurt.
So we are in the freshman and farm show season for a lot of people across the country. I know maybe Jason, you and Ryan got to wait a little longer, maybe. I don't know. Are there car shows going on?
Well, so the May long weekend is coming up for us in 2 weeks. So your May long weekend season for camping, opening season for car show, yard sales. The weather's here. So, yeah.
I'm just curious to hear from the chat. We dropped for a bit there. Hopefully Ryan filled in, but it didn't look like very long. What car shows are everybody in the chat looking forward to? I know myself, there's an all Pontiac show in the Kansas City area coming up. I have a conflict with my schedule. I won't be able to go, which kind of stinks. Not because I'm personally that big of a Pontiac fan, but if I'm going to try to sell a Pontiac Grand Prix, that might be a place I want to try to sell it. So I think Paul was in our chat earlier. I saw Paul Riccardi. But I'm just kind of curious if anybody in the chat has a car show they're looking forward to. And, you bring up a good point, Jason, about the brand-specific car show. And really, it takes you got to have a good enough market. And no doubt the Chevy truck has been a leader in the street truck scene for a long, long time. So that makes a lot of sense. But what do you think it takes? What do you think the core components are if you were going to have a successful make specific or model specific even car show? What do you think the ingredients have to be there? I've always thought, our Panther platform, right? But that'd be a tough sell to try to have a nationwide Panther platform.
Well, because most of us Panther owners are poor AF, and we wouldn't travel that far to go to a big show. I think, what's up, Village Customs? He does this big weekend with rat rods, which is quite popular, and I think he's probably getting to a point where he may be outgrowing what he's doing. At Carlisle, Pennsylvania, they have all Mopar, they have all Ford, they have it all Chevy, they're all GM. Those type of shows they're popular because they cater to a wide range of people. If you're going to narrow it down to a certain thing, Corvettes would be easy because there's lots of Corvettes out there. There's not generally a lot that get junked or trashed per se because they are, no matter who you are, generally a seasonal driver. But if you went out and said, okay, we're going to do a AMC, an all AMC show, which they have, that would be popular. There's few and far between. Even DeLorean has their own shows. Those are even fewer. And Bricklin, same thing. If the Bricklin can make it to the show is the key.
Which I just assume that's exactly what. John is going to go ahead and host the 6th annual Euro Union car show in St. John's on August 23rd. So there you go. There's another example. As long as you have the fanatics, you have the fan clubs. I think what might be different here in the now, I think back to, I grew up in Wichita, Kansas, and I remember one summer going to an all Mopar and AMC show. They kind of merged it, for a smaller. So Wichita is a community now that there's like 500,000 people live in that county, but you can still imagine it's going to still be hard to pull that many AMCs, and even out of a 500,000 people, or even the surrounding counties, you may have 750,000 people wanting to drive this car show. But what's different now is, of course, the era, the age of social media we live in. You can promote things, you can get a little more exposure nationwide, and maybe that person from Illinois, who's 7 hours away, might be tempted to drive to a place like Wichita, Kansas, for thing as it grows and grows. But so really, we live in a different era now where you can promote things at a different scale that you once could. I found out about it by saw a flyer probably on a corkboard in the lobby of a restaurant, or a gas station. That's how I knew about this car show.
So that's the old-fashioned way of finding out about shows. Before email and phones, it was word of mouth. And looking at poster cork boards at the restaurant and at the local pharmacy and wherever to see where some of these showed. And it was quite regional. But now, like you said, with the internet, it makes the world a lot smaller. So,
and one thing I appreciated most about that all Mopar AMC car show back then, and I would suspect this was probably in the peak of my car show attendance era, like high school age. I was probably high school age, maybe early college years. Is after a while, we had a really good cruise-in location at that time. But when you show up week after week, you kind of start to see the same cars over and over, even at some of the bigger car shows. So when you have these brand-specific ones, you just kind of change it up. And they're good to go to every once in a while to just, not see the same Nova, Chevelle, Mustang, Camaro combo that you once did. You saw there's all Challengers and Cudas and Javelins, just really change it up.
there's nothing wrong with it. You want to see something different. We had a local car club, same thing. It was the same 20 guys showing off the same 20 cars, and with no new people coming in. And generally, it was an older crowd, so that older crowd that's all they wanted. They wanted to get together at the local A&W and show off the cars and sit in the chairs and BS about what happened since the last time they met. So,
well, and I even found myself on the flip side of that last year with the Grand Prix when I put it up for sale in May. So I took it to probably 3 car shows right away, but even I was kind of calloused and burnt out after just attending 3 car shows as a quote-unquote shower that time. So I don't know. I have nothing against car shows. I like going to them, but I feel like you can overdo it pretty easily sometimes. And Ryan mentioned in the chat another talking point we had earlier, the Atlantic Nationals there in New Brunswick. So maybe talk a little bit about scale, right? We went from brand specific, we talked about cruising, but then you go graduate to something of that scale.
yeah, the Atlantic Nationals happens in New Brunswick the first weekend of July every year. And they've been doing it for over 20 years. Every year it gets bigger and better. They bring in not local celebrities, but they do bring in local celebrities, but they bring in celebrities from away as well. So, Steve Darnell, what's his name from Bitch and Rides, Dave Kendick, they bring in a lot of names, and having those people there is what helps draw a crowd in as well. So, generally the average attendance is in the high teens, like 1,800 maybe, registrations or whatever, but it draws a huge crowd, and there's really no restrictions on what can be put in there. If you went out and bought yourself a Hellcat or a Demon, if you want to show it off, you can pay the registration fee and show it off. But usually when I go, a couple years, I took the Yugo one year, I drove it in, and I paid the registration fee, not to show off the Yugo, so I didn't have to walk 3 miles from my parking space to get in. So, but it was pretty cool. It's a pretty neat event. Because it happens in July, July is hot in Moncton and humid, so it's a big day.
To speak more towards the scale that Brian mentions, there's a big convoy that comes down from Newfoundland almost annually every year. So that just really goes to show you what kind of draw. Again, it goes back to maybe, I don't know, maybe you can debunk this, Jason, but when we're talking about the idea of the age of social media and how you can advertise at that scale now and reach multi-state or in this instance, territories and provinces. What was the attendance or numbers like in the days prior to social media?
Well, I think because it was an annual event, the local car clubs who have contact with other car clubs would spread the word. So it was usually a physical mailing list where your registration fees got mailed to you every year. And as that list grew and as social media became a thing, that grew. But, 25 years ago was the infancy of the internet, and it just became bigger and bigger. So that was before my time that I ever started attending those shows when it first started. So I don't know. I don't know how they did it back then.
Well, I think that speaks to one thing that hasn't changed for a long time is car guys being car guys and definitely being to this idea and down to C10s in the city. And I'm just reflecting on my experience from 2 years ago, knowing that my level of enthusiasm was never going to match even the average attendee who has a truck and being a Ford guy or whatever. But man, the camaraderie and the relationships that were built even in that short time period with the guy that everybody knew still was not at their level. Like, it was still there. It's car guys being car guys. And like you mentioned in the early years, car clubs talk to car clubs. And at the end of the day, we're still just want to sit around and bench race a little bit.
Yeah, we want to talk about our cars, we want to share stories, we want to hear stories. And part of talking about what we do is not always a brag. Sometimes it's a share a hard luck story or share a hard time or a repair. And sharing those stories is what's going to help pass on this enthusiasm to the next generation. On the Get Out and Drive podcast, we're always talking about, hashtag what drives youth, YOUTH. It's sharing our experiences, having fun, and telling the stories to get that next generation of car guys and gals interested in the things that we're passionate about too. So we've got to share that stuff, because if we don't, in another generation or two, if we stop telling those stories, it'll just simply be gone.
And as Ryan mentions, feedback that Jason was saying, he was talking about, talking of stories sometimes is like learn from my mistakes, or I was even reflecting on and thinking about who you parked next to last time, that blue C10,
Yep.
and the level of the things he shaved on that truck and the level of fabrication. Sometimes there's you may know you might never get there from a skill level to your peer, but when you hear them talk through how they executed something, trick, like, even though you may never get to that level of fabrication, it still can spark in your mind how you can level up and do something one step greater than you've ever thought you could on your own build.
That's for sure. So, and to see something that you like on a guy's truck or talk to him about it, he might be more than happy to share what he did. And like a common new practice is a glue-in back window on a square body, rather than deal with that thick old weather strip and a rope and soap and all that stuff. So there's opportunities to learn what's involved and who did you get your glass from and was it expensive and stuff like that. So yeah, sometimes it's just who you park next to and how you go about learning. It's spreading the word, sharing, how you did something.
Ryan brings up a really good point. He says, you're more worried about being a gatekeeper than the hobby will last. So you can't really have both sides of the coin there, because it's like, if you want the hobby to last, you got to be open to new ideas too, and understand if you really want to understand what drives youth, what are they into? there's passing your skills and your traits and your know-how on. But I've probably told this story before. I'll tell it again. Maybe not. Maybe I never did on this. This is my second episode. Probably not on this platform. I know not on this platform. But like I joined when I was working on my Fairmont small block Windsor Fort, and in my Chilton's manual, because I was really struggling with not the firing order, but something was just off timing wise on my distributor after I did the head swap. By all indications, I had everything right from a firing order standpoint, but there was in my Chilton's manual a really misleading caption under the diagram that said, "This is the firing order unless this." And just because I was at wit's end and I was like, pretty 95% sure I got it right, but can someone please explain to me in better language this caption, because it's really confusing. It wasn't worded poorly. And someone's response was literally like, "If you have to ask that question, you shouldn't be on here." And I'm like, well, wouldn't you join a small block Ford Windsor group to get answers to questions on small block? And it was like, I mean, very quickly people fought my fight for me. I didn't really have to respond to the jackass. I did have the right firing order, and I was able to rule out I don't need to re-look at that. But it was again, I was at wit's end, and what it turned out to be, it was the rotor somehow got just a little bit off, and so it was just missing. It was just not timed right by fraction of a second, but that's all it takes. So.
John is a great example. I don't know if you're still in the chat or not, but John is a wealth of knowledge of stuff that you didn't even know you had to know. But if you have an interest in something or a question on how something's done, John did auto body restoration for a long time, and he knows a lot. And he's not afraid to share with you the information that he knows, because he feels like if he doesn't get rid of it, then it's going to be lost. And that's exactly what we're talking about. Don't be a gatekeeper. If you know how to do something, share it. There's no better time than today to create a YouTube channel and share your information. Because chances are, if you've got it, somebody wants to know it. So, get out there and create that YouTube channel, or get out on these forums and share your information. Awkward silence.
Well, hard to read this kind of text. I don't know who you is in this question, but after fixing the tailgate, he's asking Jason. So you made him cry when you fixed the tailgate. He's talking. Did you make John cry when you fixed the tailgate? Did John cry for your body working skills?
John hasn't seen my body working skills. You are watching, you're not allowed to get within 10 feet of my truck. When do you see it? Look, I said it right from the very beginning. I held nothing back. When I did those videos, I am a DIYer. I am not a body shop professional. If I wanted a perfect job, I'd set this thing up and had the perfect job paid for it. But I wanted to do it myself. Same thing with the wrap. I didn't know how difficult or how easy it was going to be until I did it. I did it. I proved that A, could be done, but B, that it was more difficult. And I ran into trouble. But it's a learning process. I've done 3 panels twice, actually 3 times. And I'm going to redo the tailgate when I get home because I've got enough material left over. And I've learned a few skills that are going to help me do it better. Simple as that.
Maybe if you had loser mentality or accepting mediocrity. But the way I always look at it is, it's well, did you make the car better than it was when you did it? Very similarly with my Grand Prix, missing the back bumper filler panel, and pretty impossible to find. There is a company that does repop them, but they're really expensive. I knew if I was going to try to make my money back on this, spending $450, $500 plus on these bumper fillers, then trying to figure out how to paint match it and make the paint match look good. I just looked at it as an opportunity to make up an excuse to tuck the bumper, section it, and try to solve the problem that way. Now, it still has some ungodly, unsightly gaps, and I will tell the next person, like, it still needs something to close that gap. But I took it as an opportunity to try something that I always wanted to do, and it made the car better in the process.
Yeah, and something you told me earlier was don't beat yourself up on the project that you've done because onlookers will look at it and love it or hate it. But either way, if you don't tell everybody how badly you screwed up, they may never see it.
Yeah.
Right? So I refer to this Suburban as a good, solid truck now, but it's definitely, as far as I'm concerned, it's a 10-footer. Don't get too close. Don't pick it apart, because if you do see my lack of skill and you point it out, I'm probably going to slap you. Because I didn't build this thing to show off. I built it to enjoy myself. And if you want to enjoy it from 10 feet away, I welcome you to do so.
All right, so the question just came through. Where are we at now? We're something. I don't know. We are probably.
Scroll out of that, maybe if I tell you.
I think we're just getting to the fringe of the greater
Concord. Flurry's not loaded.
about ready to roll over US Highway 29 and I-85 intersection.
Well, I see a sign of Minnesota Canapolis in Concord. It's the bike that just went by us at about 100.
Yeah, that's the thing that I always. Oh, and then 350X. So, yeah. All right. I don't know my knees yet.
It's a C10s. Number one. Quite possibly.
Those actions are what I can't stand the shirts that say "Watch out for bikers." I'm in full agreement with the statement, but when you do shenanigans like that, see the little dot in my side view mirror that was a dot 0.7 seconds ago and is now 5 times as big. Right? Like, how do I watch for you when you do jackass moves like that? So, excuse my language.
But yeah, we are cruising along very steadily at about, I don't know, 67, 68. That's what traffic's doing, so we're not trying to stand out. And like I said, we are 10 to 8 local time. We've still got, according to the old Google machine, 4 hours and 9 minutes to our destination tonight. So we got a long drive ahead of us still.
Ryan, go ahead and hit us with your discussion question. Aha,
Yes.
the slate truck. Yeah, we
talked about that. Good.
All right, Ryan, if you want to prompt your question one step further, we can hold off here for a second. Or do you just want us to go off of that? Wait for it. Just simply, what do you guys think? I guess I'll lead with Ryan. You threw this in our group chat on an Instagram Messenger. I personally like I hope, I like it, in short. I hope the program, the big idea, stays intact, as pure as it possibly can. To just literally be called truck, I like that. And because the name says exactly what it is. It's just meant to be super simple. And to me, it feels almost like the days of the Chevy Love truck, the Ford Courier. I'm probably missing like Datsuns, that it's time for a really, really ridiculously small truck again, and just be as bone simple, down to earth, practical as it can. Yes, it's an EV, and surprise, surprise, Ryan introduced an EV topic, but that's kind of where I stand on it.
Well, I'm in the same boat too. I think it's a great idea. I think it will do very well. And when you and I were talking about it earlier today, I seem to feel like there's an entire market for every manufacturer to start building stripped down vehicles again, especially work trucks and fleet trucks. Not everybody wants a great big giant crew cab, 4-wheel drive, Lariat or iCountry or Laramie or whatever it wants to be. They just want a basic work truck that's going to get the job done. And 9 times out of 10, that little truck is all a person needs, unless you're towing. But then you need something bigger. But I mean, I've always said that the original Ford Ranger, Chevy S10s, even the Dodge Dakota, those are pretty much sufficient for 90% of people who use or need the truck. So this little machine here, being a stripped down model, yeah, I think it's going to do very well. I like the concept. Let's hope that it's something that other companies follow suit with.
I also like the thing is you don't go to dealer in order and fill out your order sheet options. You just get the slate truck.
Yep.
Then if you want to customize it, sure, they have a parts catalog, but you're on your own to install it. It's you're the one who makes it a one-of-one at that point. And I really love that about it, because when you talk about what drives youth, people who maybe don't have the skills that you or I have, Jason, that have been built over years. Maybe some of this is simple as just pop and play kind of things, like I want to have orange accents around the door handles, so you're just popping things out and putting things back in. I really love that. Oh boy, lots to read here. Oh, he was so Ryan's just mentioning a work truck with a Chevy work truck with a 2.7 liter. I've seen maybe not even the turbocharged version. $53,000 price tag for a work truck.
Yeah. I get it. Inflation happens. I used the example of in 1986, my dad bought a four-wheel drive V8 Chevy Square Body. And I think it was something like 17 grand taxes and everything in 1986. Canadian. So even with inflation, that puts you into the mid $30,000 range. Why can I not buy a brand new truck today for the mid 30s in Canadian money? You can't. And in the equivalent US dollar, that's what, maybe $26,000 or $7,000 US. Why can't I buy a brand new truck for that today? Well, greed.
I also feel myself flipping the script mentally on just like thinking about, I'm kind of at that point in my life where I wouldn't mind buying like a $800, $1,200 like beater of a truck, because I know I'm only going to drive it to Home Depot 6 times a year. Now that I have some land, I'll be probably driving whatever I picked up at Home Depot out to my land like once a month. So it doesn't matter what gas mileage it gets. I'm only driving it maybe 500 miles a year or whatever. Well, I took that same logic, that same thinking, and I almost feel like that's a good use of an electric vehicle too, because it's like you don't have to worry about range. Now, assuming the slate truck is worthwhile something, that it's not going to just lose and have 50% battery capacity once you put 4 bags of mulch in it or whatever. Like assuming that it can actually haul stuff, well then out goes the door of range anxiety, because it's like, no, I don't use this that often, but it's just meant to go stuff things in a bed. Things that can't fit in the trunk of a Lincoln Town Car, which is a lot of stuff. But let's say like 2x4s or like two trees. You want to plant 2 trees, right? Okay, you kind of need the open air ability there, or an oven. Yeah. So I was, in a lot of ways, I like the idea of, that's a good application, I think, for EV, because yeah, I'm going to go drive 30 miles to go pick up the refrigerator, come 30 miles back home, unload it. I mean, I'm not driving for another 4 or 5 weeks.
Charlotte Motor Speedway, exit 49. So, in case you're wondering where we are.
Yeah, we can worry. I've thought kind of a similar approach to like having an e-bike, an electric bike, like the small town I live in, when we normally grocery shop in bigger metropolitan area grocery stores because the prices are better, more selection, all that stuff. But when you're when you're in a flour, like, so you don't put your car through the stop and go like 0.9 mile trek that you've had to 3 stop signs on the way. Wow, that'd be kind of fun to just take the e-bike, go grab the bag of flour, come back, you know.
Well, we're rolling up about an hour here on the live stream, and I think it's probably a good place to call it. If you guys aren't subscribed here on the Get Up Drive podcast YouTube channel, make sure you're subscribed now. Hit the like button on this video and share it out with your friends on your social media. It's a great conversation. We like to break things down, like literally our breakdowns today, and share those stories and get on a topic of things that might be a little controversial, or at least something that Grant and I have an opinion on. It's always going to be about cars. It's not always going to be about electric unless Ryan's here. He'll have something to say about that. But it's been a great time being able to drive and have this show. That's the first. And hopefully it worked out for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, just keep your interest in this episode 2 tonight. Breakdowns. It's infancy. But the idea is that we do it once a month. It's the first Thursday of every month. So go ahead and get out your paper calendars, get out your phone, and look up whatever the first Thursday in June is. That's when you'll see us next time. And if it's easier because of habit, follow Jason or I on social media. We will be putting out reminders to have those. But we really do want you to be subscribers here on the Get Out and Drive YouTube channel. And go ahead and hit those notifications so you don't miss next one.
That's right. So I appreciate you guys, we appreciate you watching, and I hope the audio came across okay. Thanks, Ryan, for being behind the scenes to help us get this going, because obviously we're on the road. So
June 5th is right.
There you go, June 5th. So we will see you guys in the next breakdown. Peace.
What's up?
Oh, hey, Grant. I don't suppose you got about 30 minutes to talk about cars.
If I'm being completely honest, probably got days.
Let me guess. Brake job?
You guessed it.
Classic breakdown.
breakdown.